I am concerned that sugar is one of the things, once it gets into the body, if you've got any problems in that area, and I have reduced my sugar intake because I've been worried about that prostate level.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Sweet Liberation, where this time we are going to be discussing men's hormones, and I'm just going to call it the menopause. We discussed the menopause in our last episode, and so this time it's your turn, Luke. We're going to discuss the menopause.
Yes.
So let's kick off. Tell us about everything to do with men's health at this point in your life, Luke.
Well, yeah, a little bit like the conversation we were having before, in that nobody actually knows or gets told about a lot of these things, and certainly men are very bad. And a lot of people know that men are bad at discussing things. Men are very bad at going to the doctors. Men are very bad at, and I've never heard anybody ever talk to me or any male friends about the menopause or the things that are going on. We don't discuss prostate health, low testosterone levels, and all of these things. We just think that it's something's going on, and we're just completely, unaware of all of these things. So, anyway, so let's kick this off with testosterone. I mean, it's we men know about it, and we know it's a hormone that's within our bodies. We possibly don't know that it can tail off, and as you get older, it reduces over time. And the thing that you do notice as a man is that you can start getting muscle wastage, and you can start finding it hard to build muscle. And if your testosterone levels are very low, you will find it hard to you could be doing all of the things, you can be going to the gym, you can be having all your protein shakes, and you're still thinking, why am I not building muscle? And it's probably down to testosterone. Have you heard, Nabila, men talking amongst themselves about this in the pub
No,
or
men don't
anywhere
talk
else?
about any of this stuff, and in fact,
No.
they don't talk about much, really. That's the thing. Which is related to their health. And
Yes.
I literally have heard of men rocking up to a doctor in the late stages of cancer because they just didn't go early enough. That's a story. I would say that nearly every friend of mine who's a GP has a story like that, of a man that's turned up too late. So those are much
Yes.
more, yes. So they have almost like the opposite, that women are often fobbed off for going in too much, men don't go in enough, and so these are gross generalizations. Of course, I'm just saying, in terms of observation. So so what is going on? Why men don't tell us about it? What's going on with men?
What's going on? Well, I think men are a little bit embarrassed to talk about it. I think that we don't really know what's going on. I mean, I lost two good friends about 2 years ago to prostate cancer. It got them really quick because they didn't. They were they're so stereotypical guys. They never would have gone to the GP, unless their arm was hanging off, and all of a sudden, both of them suddenly announced they were in the late stages of cancer, and they were given 5 months to live, and pretty much that forecast was about right, and they looked terrible in the last few months, and it's so sad. So I think, yes, men generally, we're embarrassed to talk about it. We don't really know how to broach the subject. We don't know what's really going on. And I think also with in terms of prostate health, that's a bit of there's a sort of a waterworks issue thing that's going on there. And I've had very good friends that have been up and down in the night half a dozen times because the bladder is being irritated by an inflamed and enlarged prostate. So I would say to all men, get to the GP, get your prostate checked out, and even if you're 40 years old and you're listening to this, it's a very good idea to go and insist that the GP, does a blood test, very simple 2-second blood test, and actually checks your PSA, and that will then give them an indication and a baseline from where you're going to be, where you are on the scale. Because I wish I had done that 10 or 15 years ago, because yes, I've been into the GP and I've had a steadily increasing PSA, and and it's been something that because of my friends, you do worry about it.
Mm. But you've taken
Have
action.
you yeah, exactly, and that's the thing to do. And I was talking to a doctor, and he was saying, yes, this saw palmetto is a thing that can help reduce prostate size,
Mhm.
and if it becomes enlarged. And just because it's enlarged, I was talking to another doctor, a very good friend of ours in America, and he was talking to me about prostate size and things, and he said just because it's enlarged doesn't actually mean there's anything wrong with it or you've got anything nasty going on, but certainly get it checked out.
Yeah.
And I would I would echo that. Get it checked out. At the moment, I'm going for 6 monthly blood
Mm.
tests, and and then I've got a call with my consultant next week, who's going to talk me through the blood tests as well. And so, yeah, it's just being on top of it. There are things you can do, of course, to help with men's health, particularly in the prostate area. And this is foods that have got lycopene, like tomatoes, watermelon, this sort of thing. Having a healthy lifestyle, staying active, and and I think those are the things. Those are the key things to prostate health. But also get your testosterone checked. Get the GP to have a look at that and boost that with a bit of exercise.
Yes.
I think if you can even walking around the block for half an hour 3 times a week, that's going to help testosterone levels, and that's going to make a massive
Yeah.
difference.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's amazing, Luke. And I think for women who are listening to this that have partners, what would you say to the
yeah.
women about getting? Because we women, we kind
Well,
of
yeah.
poke the bear a little bit. You need to go and see the doctor. So what would you say is the
Yeah,
right
oh,
word
well,
to?
advice to women. Oh, well, that's interesting. I'm never really sure about giving advice to women, but I can give it a go. Um, yeah, I would say encourage your man to do it. Say to him that it's for his own good. There's nothing really to worry about. I think men are a little bit nervous when they see things on television about these sort of the things that in terms of getting your prostate checked and things. And as I say, I don't think that really on balance, it's not something that you'd have to do every 6 months, but certainly the blood test is. But yes, for any women listening, encourage your man to get down to the doctors and get that PSA checked. That's for sure, and testosterone, because again, as same with women, men can have mood swings, and that could be that could signify a low testosterone.
Yes.
And if you can actually get that checked, yeah, you're on the route to what would you say? I mean,
I don't
what
know.
would you do?
That's
How would you? Oh, okay,
I don't know because the thing is, as women, we do get blamed. I'm just making gross generalizations. People are going to get triggered by this. I'm talking about men and women, gross generalizations. But in my experience of my women friends, I would say that we sometimes might get accused of nagging men to go and get things
right.
done at the GP. And then so what are the best words to use if you have a partner that's reluctant to go to the doctor and you're worried about them?
I think the best thing to do is refer to, well, as I mentioned, my two friends. In fact, the wife of one of my friends, she did say to me, "You make sure that you get down to the doctors because she was so heartbroken that she was making it her mission to talk to every man of a similar age and say you make sure you get." And she was even following it up. She even followed up to check with me that I had actually made my appointment to go. And so, she was really, really,
Bless her
straight
heart.
down the line with that.
Amazing.
Because, yeah, and so she was doing that. And I would say that, yes, the best way to get men to go to the GP is say, uh, use any anecdotes you can, and that's the best thing. Say, this is what
Thumb
happened to
screws,
Fred.
basically.
Thumbscrew. He left it. Look what happened to him.
Mm.
And also you might want to tell a little white lie and just say that if you don't get that part checked, that other bit's going to fall off. So because they're all inextricably linked. So I think there's that. I mean, I think also in terms of we've spoken before about prostate health, and I know that I think that particular part of the body does need to be it needs to be utilized as well, so that that things aren't stagnating. Because I often think that that's a part of the body that, a bit like an old pond, the water can get stagnant within it, and and anything like that is starting to go off. And I think that you've got to be aware that that is also a potential risk. So right diet, some exercise, obviously avoid cigarettes, but get it checked, and and keep keep using it.
Active, yeah. So it's activity. And one of the things is that we're seeing with the obesity epidemic that we have in this country and across the developed world, is that
Mm,
obviously when you are overweight or obese, is your hormones are just all deranged meaning all
yeah,
over the place. And
yeah.
one of the hormones that really suffers in men is testosterone, which is why as you see men becoming overweight, they start to sometimes get, sort of breast tissue,
Mm,
and that's because
yep.
they have then an increased estrogen level, and then they actually start to grow man breasts, and then their libido will go down because they don't have enough testosterone. So then you've got this kind of closed loop
Mm,
of less
yeah.
activity, less desire to get things sorted, and so you've kind of got these closed loops. So yeah, we are. I think I am hearing from my doctor friends that they are seeing a lot more hormone issues coming through, and yet that it's certainly been something that has caused a lot of is causing problems in clinics, because it's as we are growing in bigger size populations, as in our obesity, and it's triggering all sorts of problems with our health, and hormone issues is one of them. Yeah,
Right, yes, and probably insulin as well. I think,
insulin
for
resistant.
men, if you're gaining weight, and, if your diet's not right and you're becoming insulin resistant as well, you could, that's another problem. And I expect there are, and obviously I'm not medically trained, but I mean, I would imagine that, insulin, testosterone, and prostate health, all of these things are linked, as well as looking after yourself. And same for women, staying fit, staying healthy, staying strong, and making sure you're not your body's not wasting away over time. Because as we get older, I read a very good article about kidney function, and it was actually saying you're actually losing muscle through by having poor kidney function. So again, that goes back to the correct diet, and probably even some supplementation. It's very, very worth, if you're a man or woman listening to this, having, just try, maybe even having a one of these, there's some online DNA checks to check if there's any supplements that you're lacking in.
Yeah,
It's not that expensive,
right.
but it's far better to address it
Yeah,
proactively. And I'm very, very keen on this topic of being proactive for
yes.
health, because I am one of these people that thinks, yeah, what can I do today that's going to stop me being like this later? And that's the thing that I'm, and I, yeah, and like they say, you either pay now or pay later.
You're
So
gonna
a
pay.
few extra supplements
Yeah.
now, you've got to pay, and you don't want to pay later.
Yeah, I think so. But sometimes it's just the basic stuff that people don't get right. So
Mm,
I'm more on the side of saying you can't supplement your way out of a bad diet. However, there are some essential nutrients that we are so deficient in, particularly in the UK where we don't have much sunshine. I'm looking out of the window right now. I'm wearing a jumper because it's cold and it's grey, so we don't get enough vitamin D from the sun. And so we need
yeah,
to supplement, and that again is one of those. It's vitamin D is actually a hormone, and it's such an
mm,
essential one for function in the body. And so yeah, basic things like that, just basic nutrition is not being done properly, and so then you've got
no.
this cascade effect, haven't you, of all of these other impacts on health.
You have, and a very good, having a very good, supplement. And I had a report done, and by a company, and they said I have an increased need of vitamin E. Well, of course, vitamin E again is linking back to all of those things that we were talking about earlier in terms of prostate health and all of those other functions. And so, actually, if I have an increased need, and I will admit that probably over the course of the last couple of years, I haven't supplemented on vitamin E, and it's a very cheap little supplement to pick
Yeah.
up in one of the health food shops. And until I had this test done, I had absolutely no idea that I needed more vitamin E in my diet.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, interesting because I actually did the same test. But did you have the MTHFR gene? mutation?
No, well, interestingly, I haven't been able to fully analyze my report. I've looked at it, but I can't quite work out. I need to perhaps have it decoded
Yes,
by one of
they will give you a follow
by
up
one of the
call.
people that's
Yeah,
going to give me a call. Yeah, it's something that I need to do. So yeah, in fact, actually, I was watching a Gary Brecker talking about methylation on television last night, and he was saying, actually, a methylated a supplement, if you're taking some multivitamins, make sure they're
yes, that's
methylated.
right.
And he was talking about that gene and also an MTR gene as well. But I've got the full report. There's dots and phrases all over it, so I haven't had 2 minutes really to sit down and try and analyze
Yeah,
it myself. I might
listen.
actually cheat. I might cheat and try and ask somebody else to help me analyze it.
Oh yeah, no,
So, yeah,
I think it's good to sit down with a qualified healthcare professional to go through these things. But for me, I
yes,
think interesting that you're saying about supplementation and about all of these things. So you, as a man, are taking a keen interest on proactive interest in your health. What do you think
yes.
has been the thing that's tipped you over into that? Was there a health scare? Was there someone else having, you said you've lost a couple of friends. Was there one particular moment where you just thought, I just need to sort this out?
Um, no, actually, I'm going to be completely honest. It was a bit of a vanity project. What's happened is that, well, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. And so what has happened is that, having a look at some of the biohacking people online and people like David Sinclair, who looks very young for his age, and listening to a lot of the people online and people like Gary Brecker and the biohacking that he does, and and these people feel it's their mission to tell us about it. And then I thought, well, actually, as I'm doing adding some of these things into my life and actually feeling the benefit of that, that was the thing. And I was thinking, wow, this is actually, I am feeling younger. My body's not aching. I'm doing a lot more. I'm sort of going further on less fuel, needing a little bit less sleep, although I'm recently thinking, well, actually, there's a program that I'm engaging with at the moment, which is talking about sleep, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I'll go back to trying to get my 8 hours a day or something, or 9 hours a day. But certainly, I think for me, yeah, as I say, I'm not ashamed to admit that I have felt that much better, and I've started to feel 20 years younger. And then, as we've talked about a couple of times on the podcast, it's a compound and a snowball that starts to roll, and then you just carry on. And that's what I've done, really. And it's also now feeding into me being much more enthusiastic about exercise, because I hate gyms. I cannot stand gyms. I don't want to go to them. I just don't really know what to do in them. As you know, I've been a keen cyclist. I jumped on my bike and indoors, in fact, and the other day, and I was on my little rollers. And I'm quite happy to do 20 minutes on rollers indoors, but I can't face going to the gym and all of the sort of grunty people
Oh
doing
yeah,
all
I
their
hate
funny
that as
stuff.
well.
So yeah, it's not great. So I'm not a gym person. So, but I've got to be aware, and this is the thing I would say to anybody listening, male or female, be aware of your own shortcomings. If you don't like the gym and you're not that keen on exercise, make it easy for yourself. Do a little walk or park the car, further from the supermarket entrance, so you're walking, trying to get your 10,000 steps in. Go a bit further, try a little bit more, or even, listen to some, Sweet Liberation podcast in your earphones and go for a quick half-hour walk around the block. I mean, that's going to do you a lot of good. And the other thing that I have been flagged on recently by my GP in the last week is he's concerned about my cholesterol. Now, I'm not particularly worried about my cholesterol level, and I'll tell everybody what it is. It's 6.2, but apparently that's on the high end of the scale. Now, I know that
Was that
cholesterol
your
stored in the
total or was
arteries.
that your LDL? And what were your triglycerides doing?
Oh, interesting. The I think the 6.2 was the level of
There's
cholesterol.
total, there's total,
Sorry,
there's LDL,
yeah, yeah.
HDL, and triglycerides.
Yeah, the that's right. That was the total. I didn't know what the triglycerides was. I don't have that to hand. The LDL was raised as well, and I think that needs. I forget what number it was at, but that was increased. But although he said, I'm borderline. He did offer me. He said you can trial statins if you'd
Mhm.
like, and but I was talking to another doctor who says actually the brain is made up of cholesterol. So if you have statins and you're getting rid of the
Mm.
cholesterol, there's then a link back to
Well,
dementia.
I have
So
seen some things like that, and I'm not going to say
oh,
about the data. I'm just going to say
no,
anecdotally, people
yeah,
that have been taking some medications. But again, I can't comment on that from a healthcare professional point
mm,
of view. It's just observation. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of discussion around what cholesterol means. The function it has in our body, whether it actually is what's causing obstructive heart disease or not.
mm,
And so this is a massive debate going on in the medical world and in the
yeah,
research world. And I was actually listening recently to a doctor who also did 5 to 7 years of studying only on cholesterol. He only did this his PhD as well on cholesterol. So he's a doctor and he did a PhD in cholesterol.
mm,
And he was saying that his borderline is a lot higher in terms of the threshold, because he said actually it's not just about the LDL, it's about the triglycerides, what is going on in your blood, and what the amount of
right,
yes. And the LDL and the HDL alone are not going to, the LDL alone is not going to give you that information. And actually he was referring to the fact that yeah, the I think he was also inferring that there was a bit of a pharmaceutical element going on there, but I'm not going to get into all of that.
no,
However,
yeah,
I think it's good to know. I mean, if your doctor's seeing you, you're fit, healthy, normal body mass index, not excessively. You don't carry a lot of fat around the middle. Blood pressure is well controlled. Diet is well controlled. Blood sugar is
mm,
well controlled. Then he's not really going to be that worried about you. But if you've got somebody who's coming in 120 kilos walking through the door
mm,
with all of their bloods
yes.
a bit abnormal, then you're going to worry a lot more about them.
Sure. And I would say to everybody, yeah, get checked out. I mean, he said my risk factor was about 6.5%. But again, this is probably a scale that's been given to the GPs by a pharmaceutical company. But I think they worry if people are at about 10%. But 6.5 isn't a worry. And in fact, when we were talking to Dr. Rimke, that 6.2 translates into about 200, 220 in the American scale. I looked it up, and actually, she was saying, in her opinion, that was actually a healthy level, and that was okay. And my understanding of cholesterol, and this is, again, this is just, coming from an ignorant standpoint going back years, is that cholesterol is a fat that's stored in the arteries for when we used to be cavemen or women and cave persons, and it was for being able to run away from that tiger, and you needed to have fast access to fat to burn, to make that sprint. So so I actually am going to challenge myself. Here we are, and to go and get my cholesterol checked again. And I'm going to do a little bit of HIIT training. I'm going to do a
Sprinting.
few little sprints. Yeah, sprint, walk, sprint, walk, sprint, walk. Maybe only do 5 or 10 minutes of it, and then go and actually get it checked again. I also listened to a little podcast this morning by the late Michael Mosley, and he was talking to a doctor who said I would never take statins. But what Michael Mosley introduced actually was this, and the doctors fell over. I saw this documentary, and what they actually said is that the people in these control groups, he got 30 in each group, the people that actually went and walked gently 3 times a week for about half an hour had the biggest drop in cholesterol.
There you go. So it
So
doesn't take a
there
lot.
we
It
are.
doesn't
So
take a lot.
that's a
We're hunter gatherers. That's
yeah,
what we were,
yeah,
built for. That's what we've evolved to become. And sprinting to run away from something a couple of times a week would be really quite impactful, because it's going to blast all
mm,
of that cholesterol out and make it do what
yeah.
it's meant to do rather than it sitting there.
Yeah, I think exactly that. Now, I'll probably do a little bit more research on that, but as I say, I'm doing the walking, so I'm doing the bit that Michael Mosley's talked about. So I'll,
Yeah,
go and,
same.
maybe if I can get and do a bit of hit, see what I can do on that. So yeah, so there's quite a lot there, isn't there, in terms of what we've
Yeah,
talked
we've
about:
talked about, but
cholesterol, prostate.
let's go back to the personal issues that people are embarrassed to talk about, and that is men's
Okay.
hormone changes. So you've said you've taken more of an integrative approach, like really lifestyle, looking after your health, exercising, eating well, etc. But
Hmm.
on top of that, you said you do go to the GP, get your blood checked regularly, have a conversation with your GP about how to, improve things and how to take care of yourself. And so you're not doing one or the other, you're doing both together as a combined approach.
Yes, exactly. And the thing about it is that there's been a lot of studies done, and and the insurance companies will know all about this, and that is that people that are actually proactive in terms of looking after themselves and their bodies and going to the GP, getting things sorted, they're the people that are living longest. It's the people that put it off and put it off and put it off, and then all of a sudden, yeah. So that's the thing. In terms of anything that to do with health, urgency is absolutely key. And I would say, if you're a woman, you're worried about your man, and he's sort of, oh, I think I'm getting up in the night quite a lot. Just say to him that, yeah, you've got to get down to the GP and get checked out. It's no big deal. A little bit of blood out your arm, and then and if the GP is concerned about your prostate, the PSA level, he might need to check your prostate. But again, a lot of these things can be nipped in the bud really early. And I think actually there's another thing that I have been very conscious of, and I just add this at the last part of this, is that I am concerned that sugar is one of the things once it gets into the body, if you've got any problems in that area, and I have reduced my sugar intake because I've been worried about that prostate level. And because that prostate level has been rising steadily over time, I have attacked that, if you like, in my way. I've gone at it and bludgeoned it with by chopping out my chopping as much sugar out of my diet as possible, because I don't want to be feeding anything in that part of my body with something that, if sugar's going to go and grab hold of
Yeah,
those, if there's any cancer cells there, I might have prostate cancer and take it to my grave age 110. I don't know, but it won't matter then. But what I'm saying is I don't want to feed it now so it gets out of control.
that's right. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of the doctors are focusing on now, really, reducing sugar as a way of managing so many health conditions, and
Yeah.
improving outcomes for people when they are in an optimal nutrition is never ever going to harm you, is it?
Oh no,
So a
absolutely not.
reduction
No.
in refined foods is never going to cause harm, and it might
Mm.
do you a lot of good. So I think that's, with that
Yeah.
said, any lasting words, anything else you telling men to go out
No, I
there
think
and
I
get
think
themselves
it's
checked?
Yeah, get yourself checked out. Don't be afraid to do so. It isn't as bad as you might think. Maybe if you're a woman, maybe book your man in and tell him that's when he's going, and make an appointment for him at the GP, and just have an overall check out on all of the bits and pieces. It'll take a load off your mind. It'll help. It will de-stress you when you've got all your levels, or if you've got a slightly high level, you can get then straight onto it and do something about it. And I would say that as well, thank you to everybody that's joined the Sweet Liberation podcast. And there is a button below for like and subscribe. And the more people that follow our podcast, the more guests we'll be able to bring on and start talking about this. And this is the second episode, isn't it, of a series now where we're going to be talking hormones.
Hormones, all about hormones. Really looking forward to it, and interviewing some fantastic guests that we've got lined up over the next few months. And yeah, with that said, we'll love you and leave you. And as Luke said, make sure that you like and subscribe. If you love the content that we are sharing with you, make sure you share it with your friends and family, and subscribe to our channel so that we can continue to bring you great content and to get those conversations started across households all over the world. And it's our pleasure to be here for you and to serve you in that. So with that said, we'll love you and leave you on another episode of Sweet Liberation, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.